Hello guys and welcome back to another video. Today we are updating my reading journal as usual, but before we start I wanted to show you guys a few changes that I made to my rating system. So I'm going to use the Peach system that was made by Erin Smith here on YouTube. I'll link her down below, and that consists on plot, enjoyment, artistry, characters, and heart. She explains it really well in her video about this, so go check it out after this one if you're interested. I made this flip out so that I could see it in any part of the journal. And since I'm using a different system, I'm going to jump to rating parts of the initial setup and going straight to the challenges. So, I've been talking about changing my rating system because I felt like with the star rating I wasn't giving an accurate rating, so with this one I can be more critic about what I think the book deserves and not just go with my vibe. I didn't tell you what books I read this month, so I read Death's Obsession by Avina St. Graves, which now I know I gave it 3.5 stars according to the new system, Destroy Me by Tyra Mafi with 5 stars, Hexed by Emily McIntyre with 5 stars as well, and Painted Scars by Niva Altash with 4 stars. And I also DNF'd Corrupt by Penelope Douglas. In the alphabet challenge I put Painted Scars for the letter P and Destroy Me and Hexed in my Read Rainbow challenge. Next is the bingo, and I completed 4 prompts. First, takes place in summer and a classic or retelling, both for Hexed, male protagonist for Destroy Me, and a bird on the cover for Depth's Obsession. Also, don't worry, I will come back in the end to update my reading goals and all the other pages that include ratings. And now for the book places, I put New York, South Carolina, and Trillia, Brooklyn, which are places that are part of Hexed. The other books, I don't remember in what places they take place. But, oh my god, I completely forgot. Painted Scars is in Russia, so I have to put it in here off camera. Moving on, let's update my series tracker, and I know that I said that I couldn't begin any more series before finishing these ones, but I couldn't help it. And also, I finally found the marker that I used to paint the first series. It was this dark grey mild liner. And so I have to put in here the Perfectly Imperfect series that contains 11 books. I read Painted Scars, the first one, and then I also had to put the Never After series in here because I forgot to migrate it from my last reading journal, and for now I actually read the entire series. Hexed was the last one. I don't know if it's completed, but for now it is. And I also updated the Shatter Me series with the novella Destroy Me, that's between the first and second book in the series. I'm going to update the rating log, but I'm going to put the star rating in the end after I make my book spreads. Since I DNF'd my first book in 2025, I'm going to talk about it in here since it's not happening much on the page. So, I was going to read Corrupt to fill a prompt in my Year of Cooper challenge, and when I reached maybe like 50 pages, I just couldn't read anymore. I hated the characters, all of them, and this book has that trope of sharing, if you know what I mean. And I don't like it. In fact, I hate it. So when I reached the part where it was obvious for me what was going to happen, I just stopped it. And I went blind on this book. I just saw online my favorite book content creators loving this book, but I didn't know a lot about it purposefully, and I regret it. I was so angry, I don't know why, but I think the characters were all dumb. Like, yeah, she made us angry, so let's take our revenge by assaulting her together. Like, what the hell? And I read a lot of dark romances where the main characters are far from moral, but this one was awful. And I'm sorry if you liked this book or this series, but I just hated it. Okay, that was my rant about the book. So now let's move on to happier things, like putting another book on the Year of Goober challenge. I have been loving this challenge. It's so fun for me to choose a book that fills in one of the prompts, and it makes it a lot easier to choose my next read because of that. This month I read Hexed to fill in the favorite genre prompt. That's for the flower sweet pea, that's this one. But it actually filled the two prompts because the other one was one word title for the daisy, but I went with the sweet pea for this one, which this flower means simple pleasures. Now let's make my cover spread for the month of April. And to begin this theme, I chose this sticker from Sticky Club. That's from the artist K.A.K. Lecky or Arctic Selkie on Instagram. And it's this beautiful typewriter that's sitting on a pond, I guess, and there are moths sitting on it, and a lot of moths as well. And the color palette is really beautiful. For April, I usually go with a blue theme just because I relate April to rain because of the April showers, but this time I went with this sticker and with a more green theme. The only thing that I can complain about is that the sticker could be a little bigger, but it's fine, I can work with that. So this month I went back to my roots and decided to make a collage cover spread, which I was craving, I just wanted to do it so bad. So as usual I went through my stationery stash and chose a lot of papers and stickers and washi tapes that could work well with the theme and the sticker, and just try to move things around and see how I like the layout. With collages, you just have to pretty much go with the flow, moving things around, changing the layout until you reach a point where it is fine to you. Since the sticker had a typewriter, I decided to also make my title in a typewriter font, so that's why I'm making my title with my stamps and a water-based marker in the color green. I didn't have an ink pad that would look well with the rest of the page, so I just went with the marker. On the left page, I'm making my calendar where I put the days I spent reading each book, and then I can decorate the rest of the page. With the cover spread done, we can finally begin my book pages, and we're going to start with the book Death's Obsession. But first, I wanted to show you the little pitch ratings that I did for myself. I used this frame to match the frame that I did in my reading log, and it's smaller than the ones Erin Smith did. I bought the perfect PET tape for this book, I just had to use it. I got this PET from Journal Say, and it has 8 different girls, and they are perfect for book retellings, because it has one that looks like Cinderella, the other one reminds me of Swan Lake, it also has a mermaid, so it's versatile. But for this book I went with this girl dancing with a skeleton, and it's perfect because this book is literally a romance between this girl and death. I know it sounds weird, but it's explained in the book, and the main character isn't blonde, I think, but this was too perfect to not put it, so I just ignored that part. So this book follows Lilith, and she's struggling with mental health, survivor's guilt, a toxic relationship, and she's dealing with grief. Basically just feeling lost in general. She lost her family on a car accident and she was the only survivor, and because of that she doesn't understand why she survived and her family didn't. And on top of that, she's being stalked by something that leaves her notes, gifts, messages, and actually invades her dreams. And no one believes her stalker is real. They believe her subconscious is acting out, causing hallucinations and memory loss, and as a result, she is on a very strong antipsychotic medication and she's suffering financially. But spoiler, the stalker is very real. It was a little difficult watching Lilith deal with all these problems and see how her mental health is destroying her, but I really liked how death itself is actually helping her overcome death grief and grow. I was slightly confused because I wasn't understanding the connection between the two of them, but then it's explained in the book and it made sense, but I think it could be explained even more. It felt a little incomplete, but the story was really entertaining and I liked both characters, Lilith and the Grim Reaper. The ending was fitting, I guess, but for me, I wanted a little bit more. In the pitch system, it gave me a total of 18 out of 25, which divided by 5, it gave me 3.6, which I'm rounding to 3.5 stars. I like to put 1 or 2 quotes in each book page, so for this one I chose, "You will bloom, my sad flower, you already have the earth, I will bring you the sun," which I think relates really well to how death treats Lilith and it's helping her on her journey. Next is Destroy Me, and this novella is a continuation from the first book, Shatter Me, but from Erin's point of view, which I love. My favorite chapters in dual POV books is the male main character because I like to see how they think and I like to understand some actions, so of course I love this book. I can't talk much about the story without spoiling the first book, so I'm going to do my best to not spoil anything. So a little context on the overall story. This series follows Juliet. She's a prisoner in Sector 45 and the world as we know is gone. The weather is awful, the animals are gone and people are ruled by a different government. That's the Reestablishment. They are erasing everything that was from the old world, like the books and the mentality, and Juliet has a special power that basically hurts pretty bad or kills anyone that she touches. So when an accident happens, she's sent away to a prison that's basically an asylum, where she spends 3 years until one day she's brought to the leader of Sector 45, Aaron Warner. and he has a plan for her. In this novella, we can see how complex Erin is, his obsession and the complicated relationship with his father, the supreme commander of the reestablishment. And even though this novella is not long, I really loved how we can comprehend more about how Erin thinks and some of his actions in the first book, because his motivations are clear from his part, but the others don't understand him. I also really liked how Juliet's diary plays a very important role in Erin's mind. I just loved this book. When I liked the font on the book, I tried to replicate it as I did in Death's Obsession, but this one I did it my way. So for the quote, I chose, "This girl would know exactly how to shatter me," which is basically Erin's mentality in this book. And for the rating, I gave everything a 5, so 25 out of 25 is a solid 5 stars. I kept the spread simple with a brick tape to remind me of the closed off Sector 45 and the text paper to remind me of Juliet's diary. Then I complemented with some washi tape to match the cover of the book. This next entire spread is for Hexed. This is the last book in the Never After series, which are all retellings of classics like The Lion King, The Wizard of Oz, Peter Pan, and in this case, it's The Little Mermaid. This book takes place in the modern times, and it follows Vanessa. She's working for her uncle after he took her in following the death of her mother, and this family is part of the mafia. And Vanessa is cunning, beautiful, and dutiful to her uncle's demands. What he says goes, no matter what. But that's until one day her runaway cousin returns home and brings a man with her, Enzo Marino. He's a businessman during the day and the underboss to a notorious mafia syndicate by night, and he answers to no one except his father, the strongest don in the Northeast. And these two families are going to be united by the marriage between Enzo and Aria. But when he meets his fiance's cousin, he realizes that following his father's orders as he usually does without question isn't going to be that easy. In the mafia world, love and trust are very delicate things, and everyone knows that when those things are broken, you can never go back. And that's going to be a challenge for Vanessa and Enzo. I loved every minute of this book. I loved the development of the relationship between Vanessa and Enzo. I loved the plot twists, and they were a lot. Some I did see coming, some I didn't, and I really enjoyed this story. I loved every book of this series, so I knew I was going to love this one as well, but I was a little bit intimidated by the length of the book, but honestly, it was really easy to read. I loved Vanessa and her thought process. I loved Enzo and how even if he tried, he can't hide his feelings for Vanessa. And of course how he treats her well even when no one would. The plot twists on this book were crazy. Some of them pissed me off. I was so mad, but it helped the story. And I really liked how in the end the loose ends with some of the characters were tied. I thought the story would end without some revenge on some characters, but they were delivered for sure. Honestly, one of my favorite books of all time. I tried to replicate the title on the book cover the best I could, and I think it turned out really well. And for the quote, I chose this one. "I'm doing this for us, so we can finish this and I can love you out loud in this life." I chose this one because it's a current thing between Enzo and Vanessa. They always said things like, "I would kiss you on another life," "I would love you out loud on another life." So when they said "in this life," it really was a special moment, so I had to put it in here. For the spread, I put a shell necklace that appears on the book. It has a special meaning, and I used some sea stationery because the ocean is also a current theme on the story. And to finish, I also put some crystals to represent Vanessa's love for spirituality and manifestation. She was really into that. And that's it for this book. I gave 5 in all categories of the rating system, so again 5 stars. The level of angst on this book was incredible. I usually read arranged marriage between the two main characters, but in this one the marriage was between one of the main characters and another girl, kinda like a love triangle, but was not because Enzo never liked Aria, so it was fine for me. Next is the last book of this month, Painted Scars. This was a book that I didn't know anything about. I just knew it was a mafia romance and arranged marriage, but this book was a surprise for me. A good one, actually. So this book follows Nina and Roman Petrov. Roman is the Pakan of the Russian Bratva, so basically the boss, and it was a victim of an attack that left his knees permanently damaged, so he's on a wheelchair doing therapy to try to walk in the future. But that's going to take 6 months, and the mafia is starting to doubt his ability to take charge. So the next best thing is marry a woman and show that everything's fine. And that's where Nina enters the story. Her father stole money from the Bratva, and instead of killing him, they decide that his daughter, Nina, has to pretend to love Roman and marry him. So they have to pretend that they met on a party and the relationship flowed from there. I never read a story with a disabled hero, but I really liked it and I thought it was really interesting understanding the process and the mentality of someone with that problem. I just think that the story could be a little longer, it felt a little rushed and some parts could be explained a little bit more or given some more context. I really liked the way that Nina went along with the whole pretend thing and how she connected with the rest of the people on Roman's house, especially the cook. I think it was really wholesome. Again, if the story didn't felt so rushed, it would be a pretty close 5 stars, and I thought it would take a little more work to deal with Roman's revenge on the attack, but it was resolved pretty quickly. I know that this story was mostly the romance part and the mafia was second, but I enjoyed the whole action scenes and some plot twists which were lacking in this book. Sometimes it would bother me that the author made it really clear that Nina was tiny. Multiple times. Like, I get it, she's short. You don't have to remind me of that every chapter. But with that in mind, it was enjoyable, a really quick read, and if you like that tropes, you're going to like this book as well. This was my favorite title to recreate, especially because I went with this whole brown and gold theme for the spread, and obviously this color scheme is one of my favorites to use. The quote that I chose was, "It's like the sun has suddenly broken through the dark clouds, hitting me with its warmth, and I find myself wishing this was real and not just an act." This is basically the whole vibe of the book, both from Nina and Roman's point of view. And the rating came up with a 18.5, which divided by 5 gives me a 3.7, which is right in the middle. I could rounded it to 3.5 or 4 stars, and maybe it should be 3.5, but I'm fine with 4 as well. This was not my favorite book of this month, but this spread was. I really love how it came out. And now that these book spreads are done, we can go back to the initial setup and fill in the parts that are incomplete, like my reading goals, my bookshelf, and my ratings in the reading log. And now it's time for the final flip through. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, give a like and subscribe, and tell me in the comments if you DNF'd a book this year, and if you did, tell me what the book was. This was a good reading month, I think, but it started off quite bad with the DNF, but it ended pretty well. I'm really liking how the spreads are going in this journal. It's really refreshing doing different themes and decorations for every book, even if the book isn't a 5 stars. I hope you guys also had a good reading month, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye!